So last week, after XXXTentacion's memorial service, his team released a video for Sad. I imagine it must have been a little difficult for fans watching this right after his death. Let's take a look.
I don't know yet. Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide if you're ever gonna let me know. Yeah, suicide if you ever try to let go. I'm sad, I know, yeah. I'm sad, I know, yeah.
So we see him sort of wrestling with his past at a funeral in this video. What do you guys think, especially, you know, of course, when it was released?
I believe this is the video of the year for me. Maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a little close to the situation, and also I had a lot of conversations where he was describing this video. Even publicly when we had our 3-hour like Twitch conversation, he was describing what's seen here, which is he used to be a kid, again, anger issues. He did a lot of things that he wasn't necessarily proud of, but he was trying to change, and he changed. So he was really trying to also change people's perception of him, where people perceived him as this young kid who's done so many crazy and bad things. He was trying to reinvent himself. Well, you know, it's a video that kind of, now that you realize that he passed, it's a little eerie. But I did speak to his mom, and you know what, which was so crazy. She said this video fucked her up, and she said, I saw this video for the first time the night before it got released, which was after his death. And it was the first time she saw it. You can imagine a mother seeing that, and it really shook her up. But you know what, she did respect his vision even before he died to have that be the visual for this particular song. X is someone who, again, battled depression and other mental issues, and while he wasn't a guy who was necessarily on medication, he used music to medicate, and he tried to help others who were afflicted just like him. So again, these visuals and the songs and even this message will continue to live on, but I will say very powerful video. In my opinion, it's the best video of the year.
Well, I mean, what this reminded me of, well, one time 50 Cent, he said on a song, in the Bible I read, death is at its tongue, and if you talk about death enough, death is gonna come, right? And when you look at X's career, you know, it's very short-lived, right? It's very short-lived. There's a lot of death, right? Now, doesn't mean that that's exactly why he died, right? But he spoke about death a lot, and it reminds me a lot of Tupac. You know, when Tupac died, he put out I Ain't Mad at You. And in I Ain't Mad at You, he died, and his man was coping with his death, and he was his man's angel and always on his shoulder. And in terms of like a lot of rappers that passed away, when you look at Biggie, his first album was called Ready to Die. His second album was called Life After Death. It's like all of these different things where I don't know if they foresaw death in their future directly, but their music kind of led them to that in a sense, as far as like the subject matter and the visuals. And it's like with X, what I got out of the video that I did like was he was killing off the old version of himself to kind of go in a new direction, you know? But I'm just not and I mean, maybe this is new, I'm just not a person big on like always speaking death. You know, I mean, if you're always speaking it, it's gonna come in different ways. It might not necessarily happen to you, but if you put certain things into the universe, they come back a certain way.
Yeah, I understand. People
You know?
do that. You put things out, you manifest them, and
I do believe now not even some, but a lot of the music for a lot of these new artists, they look at death as not only the inevitable, but they look at as death as an escape. So when you hear most of them, they're singing about issues. I could go back to Lil Peep. He had a song, it's a great song actually, called Better Off Dying.
That's horrible,
Right?
yo.
You look at Uzi. The thing, you know, Uzi one of my favorite artists, but people don't realize, if you really look at, just read through the lyrics of most Uzi songs. Most of the songs, he's basically saying he's numb to all of this, he can't feel, and honestly, he doesn't care if he's here or not. And
He's not like that in life, though. He's not like that in life.
I wouldn't know. I don't know him that personally.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just tired of this shit. Like, what the fuck is these kids so sad about? Like that's what you motherfuckers is making $50,000 a night. My thing is like, stop calling about death all the time. Like what's everybody's bad? A lot of people battle a lot of different things, but a lot of them just be making this shit because it's the end thing to do. When I was growing up, the end thing to do was to have bars and metaphors and all of that shit. And I feel like a lot of these kids, I wouldn't say that they're not going through shit, but I feel like a song about death is just making you think of, like, when something's not that serious, you like, oh, I just want to die. You should never be making no fucking song about how it's better to die. As a young kid, like that shit is disgusting, and it's a larger issue because we desensitized, like we was talking about yesterday, with these kids and being able to pick up their phone and see people getting shot in their head and getting murdered and all that other shit. That shit is disgusting. I'm a father, so it's like I can't jack a kid talking about some, oh, I'm so sad, the world is so sad, and for what?
Yeah, I mean, look, growing up is tough, and especially growing up in this sort of social media generation, I think a lot of kids, like, although they have so much more exposure, they're more lonely, they're more depressed, and so, like, growing up, like, I connected with Eminem because I understood all the shit he was frustrated about, but yet, to your point, when some people are doing it, I know, when people are doing it just for money,
that's
you know
what I'm saying.
Then it becomes
because these
problematic.
motherfuckers is driving, like, they talking about something, I want to die, and then you driving a Lambo, throwing fucking money in the air, but you want to die. Like,
it's hard for me to tell, like, who's genuine and who's not, so I just kind of, like, I believe you in your own sense, and also only you and God knows. But the way I look at all of this, right, is, and I think Lil Xan most recently is probably the epitome of it. I look at it like some of these kids were born to situations where their parents may be on drugs, right? Again, all these chemical imbalances, I don't know. Again, I'm speculating. But hearing Lil Xan, I remember on a video that went viral recently when he went live and, like, his manager cut it off, where he said that, yo, like, my dad was a crackhead. And I know a lot of people took jokes in that, but obviously his name is Lil Xan. He used to have a Xanax addiction. He got predisposed to drugs and kind of almost led into it because of his parents. You get me? So now he's a little bit, like, his shit is a little off, and now he might be medicating or not, but he is gonna have, he's not gonna think normally. Again, I can't resonate with it, and I remember, listen, I can tell you this quick story before we get off this topic. I remember X, when he dropped 17, he called me and said, listen, Ak, he said, I'm going to send you this album. I want you to go in a room and I want you to turn off all the lights and sit there and listen to it. And I said, X, what the fuck is you talking about? This ain't one of your fans. Because it was the depressed album. Okay. It's the album he said that was for depressed people. And I said, X, I could listen to the album like I listen to everything else, but I'm not depressed, okay? And I'm not going to try to be depressed to enjoy this album. So, again, who knows if all these things are sincere with everyone, but all I will say, whether it's through music or otherwise, I hope they get help.
Listen, man, I feel you, but, like, most of these rappers, period, be liars. Majority of them is liars. They lie about everything, about how they living. A lot of them lie about how they grew up and all of that shit. And then and I can only say that, it's a case-by-case basis, but, like, I can only say that from how long I've been in the game and how many rappers I've been around, right? And like we both agreed on, like, a lot of them is doing that because that's the end thing, to rap about this type of shit. And my thing is you sending a lot of people down the wrong path. It's a lot of rappers that be talking about drugs that they don't even use. Fuck out of here. I'm sorry, I'm not, and this is not towards X. I'm just saying a lot of them is, like, using one thing to make an excuse to be one way. And I'd be damned if I let my son get hooked on drugs because some rappers talking about being sad, and if I yell at him, he's gonna be sad and say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna pop a Xanny because my father's upset at me. The fuck out of here. Excuse me, y'all.
I do think some of the fans have tried to, I've seen fans try to, like, be like, oh, they try to get depressed to fit in.
That's not supposed to be the point.
That's corny.
You're supposed to find solace in the music and then be able to grow and evolve. It should be your therapy. It shouldn't make you
watch what you're putting out in the
universe.
universe.
Want to be suicidal or anything like that, you know?
Watch what you put out in the universe.
Facts, Desk.
Yeah, but R.I.P. To X.